NovelStream presents The Horror on the Links by Seabury Quinn. It must have been past midnight when the skirling of my bedside telephone awakened me, for I could see the moon well down toward the horizon as I looked through the window while reaching for the instrument. Dr. Trowbridge, an excited voice bored through the receiver. This is Mrs. Maitland. Can you come over right away? Something dreadful has happened to Paul. I answered half asleep. What's wrong? We don't know, she replied jerkily. He's unconscious. You know, he'd been to the dance at the country dub with Gladys Phillips, and we'd been in bed for hours when we heard someone banging on the door. Mr. Maitland went down, and when he opened the door, Paul fell into the hall. Oh, doctor, he's been hurt dreadfully. Won't you please come right over? Physician's sleep is like a park, public property. With a sigh, I climbed out of bed and into my clothes, teased my superannuated motor to life, and set out for the Maitland house. Young Maitland lay on his bed, eyes closed, teeth clenched, his face set in an expression of unutterable dread, even in his unconsciousness. Across his shoulders and on the backs of his arms, I found several long, incised wounds, as though the flesh had been raked by a sharp-pronged instrument. I sterilized and bandaged the cuts and applied restoratives, wondering what sort of encounter had produced such hurts. Help! Help! Oh, God! Help! The lad muttered thickly, like a person trying to call out in a nightmare. Oh, it's got me. His words drowned in a gurgling, inarticulate cry of fear, and he sat bolt upright, staring round with vacant, fear-filmed eyes. Easy on, young fellow, I soothed. Lie back. Now, take it easy, you're all right. You're home in bed. He looked uncomprehendingly at me a moment, then fell to babbling inanely. The ape-thing. It's got me. Open the door. For God's sake, open the door. Here, I ordered gaffly as I drove my hypodermic into his arm. None o' that. You quiet down. The opiate took effect almost immediately, and I left him with his parents while I returned to catch up the reveled ends of my torn sleep. Headlines shrieked at me from the front page of the paper lying beside my breakfast grapefruit. Superfiend sought in girls' slang. Body of young woman found near Sedgemoor. Country club mystifies police. Criminal. Pervert blamed for killing. Arrest imminent. Almost entirely denuded of clothing, marred by a score of terrible wounds, her face battered nearly past recognition and her neck broken. The body of pretty Sarah Humphreys, 19, a waitress in the employ of the Sedgemoor Country Club, was found lying in one of the bunkers of the Dubs golf course this morning by John Burrows, a greenskeeper. Miss Humphreys, who had been employed at the clubhouse for 3 months, completed her duties shortly before midnight and, according to statements of fellow workers, declared she was going to take a short cut across the links to the Andover Road, where she could get a late bus to the city. Her body, terribly mutilated, was found about 25 yards from the road on the golf course this morning. Between the golf links and the Andover Road is a dense growth of trees, and it is thought the young woman was attacked while walking along the path through the woods to the road. Deputy Coroner Nesbitt, who examined the body, gave his opinion that she had been dead about 5 hours when found. She had not been criminally assaulted. Several suspicious characters have been seen in the neighborhood of the club's grounds recently, and the police are checking up on their movements. An early arrest is expected. There's 2 gentlemen to see ye, sir. Nora McGinnis, my household factotum, interrupted my perusal of the paper. 'Tis Sergeant Costello and a Frenchman, or Italian, or somepin'. They do be wantin' ter ax ye questions about teach murder of teach poor little Humphreys girl. Ask me about the murder? I protested. Why, the first I knew of it was when I looked at this paper, and I'm not through reading the account of the crime yet. That's all right, Dr. Trowbridge, Detective Sergeant Costello answered with a laugh as he entered the dining room. We don't figure on arresting you, but there's some questions we'll be askin, if you don't mind. This is Professor de Grandin of the Paris Police. He's been doing some work for his department over here, and when this murder broke, he offered chief his help. We'll be needing it, too, I'm thinking. Professor de Grandin, Dr. Trowbridge. He waved an introductory hand from one of us to the other. The professor bowed stiffly from the hips in continental fashion, then extended his hand with a friendly smile. He was a perfect example of the rare French blonde type, rather under medium height, but with a military erectness of carriage that made him seem several inches taller than he actually was. His light blue eyes were small and exceedingly deep-set, and would have been humorous had it not been for the curiously cold directness of their gaze. With his blonde mustache waxed at the ends in two perfectly horizontal points, and those twinkling, stock-taking eyes, he reminded me of an alert tomcat. Like a cat's, too, was his lithe, noiseless step as he crossed the room to shake hands. "I fear Monsieur Costello gives you the misapprehension, Doctor," he said in a pleasant voice, almost devoid of accent. "It is entirely true I am connected with the Service de Charite, but not as a vocation. My principal work is at the University of Paris and Saint-Lazare Hospital. At present I combine the vocation of savant with the avocation of criminologist." "You see, why?" I interrupted as I grasped his slim, strong hand. "You're Professor Jules de Grandin, the author of Accelerated Evolution?" A quick, infectious grin swept across his mouth and was reflected in his eyes. "You know me, Hein? Good. It is that I am among friends. However, at the moment our inquiries lie in quite another field. You have a patient, one Monsieur Paul Maitland. Yes? He was set upon last night in the Andover Road, no?" "I have a patient named Paul Maitland," I admitted, "but I don't know where he received his injuries." "Nor do we," he answered with a smile. "But we shall inquire. You will go with us while we question him." "No." "Why, yes," I acquiesced. "I should be looking in on him this morning, anyhow." "And now, young monsieur," Professor de Grandin began when introductions had been completed, "you will please tell us what happened last night to you." "Yes." Paul looked uncomfortably from one of us to the other and swallowed nervously. "I don't like to think of it," he confessed, "much less talk about it. But here's the truth, believe it or not. I took Gladys home from the club about 11 o'clock, for she had developed a headache. After I'd said goodnight to her, I decided to go home and turn in, and had gotten nearly here when I reached in my pocket for a cigarette. My case was gone, and I remembered laying it on a window ledge just before my last dance. The mater gave me that case last birthday, and I didn't want to lose it, so, instead of telephoning the club and asking one of the fellows to slip it in his pocket, like a fool I decided to drive back for it. You know, at least Dr. Trowbridge and Sergeant Costello do, the Andover Road dips down in a little valley and curves over by the edge of the golf course, between the 8th and 9th holes. I'd just reached that part of the road, nearest the links when I heard a woman scream twice. It really wasn't T2 screams, more like 1.5, for her second cry was shut off almost before it started. I had a gun in my pocket, a little .22 caliber automatic. Good thing I did, too, so I yanked it out and drew up at the roadside, leaving my engine running. That was lucky, too, believe me. I ran into the woods, yelling at the top of my voice, and there I saw something dark, like a woman's body, lying across the path. I started toward it when there was a rustling in the trees overhead, and, plop, something dropped right down in front of me. Gentlemen, I don't know what it was, but I know it wasn't human. It wasn't quite as tall as I, but it looked about twice as wide, and its hands hung down, clear down to the ground. I yelled, "What the hell goes on here?" and pointed my gun at it, and it didn't answer, just started jumping up and down, bouncing with its feet and hands on the ground at once. I tell you, it gave me the horrors. "Snap out of it," I yelled again, "or I'll blow your head off." Next moment, I was so nervous and excited I didn't know what I was doing. I let fly with my pistol, right in the thing's face. That came near being my last shot, too. Believe me or not, that thing, whatever it was, reached out, snatched the gun out of my hand, and broke it. Yes, sir, snapped that pistol in two with its bare hands as easily as I could break a match. Then it was on me. I felt one of its hands go clear over my shoulder from breast to back in a single clutch, and it pulled me toward it. Ugh, it was hairy, sir. Hairy as an ape. More blue. Yes. And then, de Grandin prompted eagerly. Then I lunged out with all my might and kicked it on the shins. It released its grip a second, and I beat it. Ran as I never had on the quarter-mile track, jumped into my car, and took off down the road with everything wide open. But I got these gashes in my back and arms before I got to the roadster. He made 3 or 4 grabs for me, and every one of them took the flesh away where his nails raked me. By the time I got home, I was almost crazy with fright and pain and loss of blood. I remember kicking at the door and yelling for the folks to open, and then I went out like a light. The boy paused and regarded us seriously. You think that I'm the biggest liar out of jail? Most likely, but I've been telling you the absolute, straight truth, sirs. Costello looked skeptical, but de Grandin nodded eagerly, affirmatively. But certainly you speak the truth, mon vieux, he agreed. Now, tell me, if you can, this poilu, this hairy one, how was he dressed? Paul wrinkled his brow. I can't say surely, for it was dark in the woods, and I was pretty rattled, but I think it was in evening clothes. Yes, I'd swear to it. I saw his white shirt bosom. Ah, de Grandin murmured. A hairy thing, a fellow who leaps up and down like a mad monkey or a jumping jack, and wears the evening clothes. It is to think, mes Amos. I'll say it is, Costello agreed. It is to think what sort o' hooch they're serving to youngsters nowadays. Or meb they can't take it like us old vets o' First World War. Dr. Trowbridge is wanted on the phone, please. A maid's announcement cut his ponderous irony. You can take it on this one, if you wish, sir. It's connected with the main line. This is Mrs. Comstock, doctor. A voice informed me. Your cook told us you were at Mrs. Maitland's. Can you come to my house when you leave there? Mr. Manley, my daughter's fiancé, was hurt last night. Hurt last night, I repeated. Yes, out by the country club. Very well, I'll be right over, I promised, and held out my hand to Professor de Grandin. Sorry I have to run away, I apologized, but another man was hurt at the club last night. Pardieu, his little round blue eyes bored into mine. That club, it are a most unhealthy place, n'est-ce pas? May I accompany you? This other man may tell us something that we ought to know. Young Manley's injury proved to be a gunshot wound inflicted by a small caliber weapon and was located in the left shoulder. He was reticent concerning it, and neither de Grandin nor I felt inclined to press him insistently, for Mrs. Comstock hovered in the sick room from our entrance till the treatment was concluded. Nom d'un petit porc, the little Frenchman muttered as we left the Comstock residence. He is close-mouthed, that one. Almost, it would appear, pa. I talk the rot. Let us go to the morgue, cher colic. You shall drive me there in your motor and tell me what it is you see. Oft times you gentlemen of general practice see things that we specialists cannot because we wear the blinders of our specialties. N'est-ce pas? In the cold, uncharitable light of the city mortuary, we viewed the remains of poor little Sarah Humphreys. As the newspaper had said, she was disfigured by a score or more of wounds, running, for the most part, down her shoulders and arms in a series of converging lines, and incised deeply enough to reveal the bone where skin and flesh had been shorn through in places. On throat and neck were 5 distinct livid patches, one some 3 inches in size, roughly square, the other 4 extending in parallel lines almost completely round her neck, terminating in deeply pitted scars, as though the talons of some predatory beast had sunk into her flesh. But the most terrifying item of the grisly sight was the poor girl's face. Repeated blows had hammered her once pretty features to a purpled level, and bits of sand and fine gravel still bedded in the cuticle told how her countenance must have been ground into the earth with terrific force. Never, since my days as emergency hospital intern, had I seen so sickening an array of injuries on a single body. And what is it you see, my friend? The Frenchman asked in a low, raucous whisper. You look, you meditate. You do think what? It's terrible, I began, but he cut me off impatiently. But certainly, One does not look to see the beautiful in the morgue. I ask for what you see, not for your aesthetic impressions. Parbleu. If you want to know what interests me most, I answered, it is those wounds on her shoulder and arms. Except in degree, they're exactly like those which I treated on Paul Maitland last night. His small blue eyes were dancing with excitement. His cat's whiskers mustache was bristling more fiercely than ever. Name of a little blue man. We begin to make the progress. Now, he touched the livid patches on the dead girl's throat daintily with the tip of a well-manicured nail. These marks, do they tell you something? I shook my head. Possibly the bruise left by some sort of garrote, I hazarded. They are too long and thick for fingerprints. Besides, there's no thumb mark. His laugh was mirthless as that of an actor in a high school play. No thumb mark, you say? My dear sir, had there been a thumb mark, I should have been all at sea. These marks are the stigmata of the truth of young Monsieur Maitland's story. When were you last at Le Jardin des Plantes? How do you say him? Zoological garden. The zoo, I echoed wonderingly. Precisement, the zoo, as you call him. Have you never noted how the quadrumana take hold of a thing? I tell you, cher colic, it is not very much of an exaggeration to say the thumb is the difference between man and monkey. Man and the chimpanzee grasp objects with the fingers, using the thumb as a fulcrum. The gorilla, the orangutan, the gibbon are all fools. They know not how to use their thumbs. Now see. Again he indicated the bruises on the dead girl's throat. This large square patch. It is the mark of the heel of the hand. These circling lines, they are the fingers, and these wounds, they are nail prints. Name of an old and very wicked tomcat. It was the truth young Maitland told. It was an ape that he met in the wood. An ape in evening clothes. What do you make of that, Hein? God knows, I answered helplessly. Assuredly, he nodded solemnly. Le bon Dieu truly knows. But me, I am determined that I shall know, too. Abruptly, he turned from the dead girl and propelled me gently toward the door by the elbow. No more now, he declared. You have your mission of help to the sick to perform. I also have some work to do. If you will take me to police headquarters, I shall be obliged to you. And, if the imposition is not too great, may I dwell at your house while I work upon this case? You consent. Good. Until tonight, then, au revoir. It was some time after 8 o'clock that evening when he came to the house, laden with almost enough bundles to tax a motor truck. Great Scott, Professor, I exclaimed as he laid his parcels on a convenient chair and gave me a grin which sent the waxed points of his mustache shooting upward like a pair of miniature horns. Have you been buying out the town? Almost, he answered as he dropped into an easy chair and lit an evil-smelling French cigarette. I have talked much with the grocer, the druggist, the garage man, and the tobacconist, and at each place I made purchases. I am, for the time, a new resident of your so charming city of Harrisonville, eager to find out about my neighbors and my new home. I have talked like a garrulous old woman. I have milled over much wordy chaff, but from it I have sifted some good meal. Grace adieu. He fixed me with his curiously unwinking cat stare as he asked, You have a Monsieur Catmar as a neighbor, have you not? Yes, I believe there's such a person here, I replied, but I know very little about him. Tell me that little, if you will be so kind. He's lived here just about a year, and kept very much to himself. As far as I know, he's made no friends, and has been visited by no one but tradesmen. I understand he's a scientist of some sort, and took the old Means place out on the Andover Road so he could pursue his experiments in quiet. One sees. De Grandin tapped his cigarette case thoughtfully. So much I have already gathered from my talks with the tradespeople. Now tell me, if you can, is this Monsieur all unknown a friend of the young Manleys, the gentleman whose wound from gunshot you dressed this morning? Not that I know, I answered. I've never seen them together. Manley's a queer, moody sort of chap, never has much to say to anyone. How Millicent Comstock came to fall in love with him, I've no idea. He rides well and is highly thought of by her mother, but those are about the only qualifications he has as a husband that I've been able to see. He is very strong, that one. I wouldn't know. I had to confess. Very well then. Listen at me, if you please. You think de Grandin is a fool, hein? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. Today I do other things than talk. I go to the Comstock lady's house and reconnoiter. In an ash can I find a pair of patent leather dress shoes, very much scratched. I grease the palm of a servant and find out they belong to that Monsieur Manley. In the trash container, I make further researches and find a white linen dress shirt with blood on it. It is torn about the cuffs and split at the shoulder. That shirt. It, too, I find, belonged to Monsieur Manley. Me, I am like the dealer in old clothes when I talk with Madame Comstock's servant. I buy that shirt and those shoes from him. Behold. From one of his parcels, he drew forth a pair of dress shoes and a shirt and spread them for my inspection as if they were curios of priceless value. In Paris we have ways of making the inanimate talk, he asserted as he thrust his hand into his pocket and drew out a bit of folded paper. That shirt, those shoes, I put them through the degree of the third time, and how they talk to me. Mordieu, they gabble like a pair of spinsters over the teacups. Opening the paper, he disclosed 3 coarse dull brown hairs, varying from a ½ inch to 3 inches in length. I looked at them curiously. They might have been from a man's head, for they were too long and straight to be body hairs, but their texture seemed too harsh for human growth. I commented noncommittally. Precisement, he grinned. You cannot classify them, eh? No, I admitted. They're entirely too coarse to have come from Manley's head. Besides, they're almost black. His hair is a distinct brown. My friend, he leaned toward me and stared unwinkingly into my face. I have seen hairs like that before. So have you, but you did not recognize them. They are from a gorilla. From a gore? Man, you're raving. I jerked back. How could a gorilla's hair get on young Manley's shirt? You have the wrong preposition, he corrected. They were not on his shirt, but in it, below the neckline, where a bullet had torn through the linen and wounded him. The hairs I found embedded in the dried blood. Look at this garment, if you please. He held the shirt before me for inspection. Behold how it is split. It has been on a body much too big for it. I tell you, Monsieur Trowbridge, that shirt was worn by the thing. The monster, which killed that pitiful girl dead on the links last night, which attacked the young Maitland a few minutes later, and which got paint from Madame Comstock's house on these shoes when it climbed into that house last night. You start, you stare. You say to yourself, this de Grandin, he is crazy like the April fish. Him. Attend me while I prove each step in the ladder. This morning, while you were examining young Monsieur Manley's wound, I was examining both him and his room. On his window sill, I noted a few scratches, such scrapes as one who drags his legs and feet might make in clambering across the window ledge. I look out of the window, and on the white-painted side of the house, I see fresh scratches in the paint. Also, I find scratch marks on the painted iron pipe that carries water from the roof in rainy weather. That pipe runs down the corner of the house near Manley's window, but too far away for a man to reach it from the sill. But if a man has arms as long as my leg, what then? Oh, then he could have made the reach most easily. Yes. Now, when I buy those shoes, that shirt, from Madame Comstock's servant, I note both paint and scratches on the patent leather. Later I compare the paint on the shoes with that on the house side. They are the same. Also I note the shirt, how he is blood-stained and all burst out, as though the man who wore him suddenly expanded and burst through him. I find beast hairs in the blood stains on the shirt. So, now you see. I'm hanged if I do, I denied. He bent forward again, speaking with rapid earnestness. The Comstock servant tells me more when I quiz him. He tells me, by example, that last night the young Manley was nervous, what you call ill at ease. He complained of headache, backache. He felt what he called rotten. Yes, he went to bed early, and his fiancée went to the country club dance without him. The old madam, she, too, went to bed early. But later in the night, at almost midnight, the young man went for a walk, because, he said, he could not sleep. That is what he told the servant this morning, but he paused impressively, then went on, spacing his words carefully. The servant had been up all night with the toothache. And while he heard the young man come in sometime after midnight, he did not hear him leave, as he certainly would have done had he gone out the door. And now, consider this. A policeman of the motorcycle tells me he observed the young manly coming from that Monsieur Calmar's house, staggering like one drunk. He wonders, that policeman, if Monsieur Calmar keeps so much to himself because he sells unlicensed liquor after the saloons are closed. What now, cher colic? You say what? Damn it, I exploded. You're piecing out the silliest nonsense story I ever heard, de Grandin. One of us is crazy as hell, and I don't think it's I. Neither of us is crazy, mon vieux, he returned gravely. But men have gone mad with knowing what I know, and madder yet with suspecting what I am beginning to suspect. Will you be good enough to drive me past the house of Monsieur Calmar? A few minutes' run carried us to the lonely dwelling occupied by the eccentric old man whose year's residence had been a 12 months mystery. He works late, that one, de Grandin commented as we drove by. Observe, the light burns in his workshop. Sure enough, from a window at the rear of the house a shaft of bright light cut the evening shadow, and, as we stopped the car and gazed, we could see Calmar's bent form, swathed in a laboratory apron, passing and repassing the window. The little Frenchman looked long at the white-draped figure, as if he would imprint its image on his memory, then touched me on the elbow. Let us go back, he ordered softly, and as we go I shall tell you a story. Before the war that wrecked the world, there came to Paris from Vienna one Dr. Beneckendorf. As a man he was intolerable, but as a savant without parallel. With my own eyes I saw him do things that in an age less tolerant of learning would have brought him to the stake as a wizard. But science is God's tool, my friend. It is not meant that man should play at being God. That man, he went too far. We had to put him in restraint. Yes, I answered, not particularly interested in his narrative. What did he do? What did he not do, pardieu? Children of the poor were found missing at night. They were nowhere. The gendarmes' search narrowed to the laboratory of this Beneckendorf, and there they found not the poor missing infants, but a half-score ape creatures, not wholly human nor completely simian, but partaking horribly of each, with fur and hand-like feet, but with the face of something that had once been of mankind. They were all dead, those poor ones, fortunately for them. He was adjudged mad as the June beetle by the court, but my friend, what a mentality, what a fine brain gone bad. We shut him up for the safety of the public, and, for the safety of humanity, we burned his notebooks and destroyed the serums with which he had injected the human babes to turn them into pseudo-apes. Impossible, I scoffed. Incredible, he agreed, but not, unfortunately, impossible for him. His secret entered the madhouse with him, but in the turbulence of war he escaped. Good God, I cried. You mean this monster maker is loose on the world? He shrugged his shoulders with Gallic fatalism. Perhaps. All trace of him has vanished, but there are reports he was later seen in the Congo Belgique. But, no buts, my friend, if you will be so kind. To speculate is idle. We have arrived at an impasse, but presently we may find our way over, under, or around it. One favor, if you will be good enough to grant it, when next you attend the young manly, permit that I accompany you. I would have a few minutes' talk with Madame Comstock. Cornelia Comstock was a lady of imposing physique and even more imposing manner. She browbeat fellow club members, society reporters, even solicitors for causes, but to de Grandin she was merely a woman who had information he desired. Prefacing his inquiry with the sort of bow no one but a Frenchman can achieve, he began directly. Madam, do you, or did you ever, know one Dr. Beneckendorf? Mrs. Comstock gave him a look, beside which the basilisk S, most deadly glare would have been languishing. My good man, she began as if he were an overcharging taxi driver, but the Frenchman met her cold gaze with one equally frigid. You will be good enough to answer me, he told her. Primarily, I represent the Republic of France, but I also represent humanity. Once more, please, did you ever know a Dr. Beneckendorf? Her cold eyes lowered before his unwinking stare, and her thin lips twitched a little. Yes, she answered in a voice not much more than a whisper. Ah, so, we make progress. When did you know him? In what circumstances? Believe me, you may speak in confidence before me and Dr. Trowbridge, but please speak frankly. The importance is great. I knew Otto Benekendorf many years ago. He had just come to this country from Europe and was teaching biology at the university near which I lived as a girl. We were engaged. And your betrothal? For what reason was it broken, please? I could scarcely recognize Cornelia Comstock in the woman who regarded Jules de Grandin with wondering, frightened eyes. She trembled as with a chill, and her hands played nervously with the cord of her tortoise-shell pince-nez as she replied, "He was impossible, sir. We had vivisectionists, even in those days, but this man seemed to torture poor, defenseless beasts for the love of it." I handed back his ring when he boasted of one of his experiments to me. He positively seemed to gloat over the memory of the poor brute's sufferings before it died. "Eh bien, madame." De Grandin shot me a quick glance. "Your betrothal, then, was broken. He left you, one assumes, but did he leave in friendship?" Cornelia Comstock looked as if she were upon the verge of fainting as she whispered, "No, sir, no. He left me with a dreadful threat. I recall his very words. How can I ever forget them? He said, 'I go, but I return. Nothing but death can cheat me, and when I come back, I shall bring on you and yours a horror such as no man has known since the days before Adam.'" Parbleu! The little Frenchman almost danced in his excitement. "We have the key to the mystery, almost, friend Trowbridge." To Mrs. Comstock he added, "One more little, so small question, if you please, madam. Your daughter is betrothed to one Monsieur Manley. Tell me, when and where did she meet this young man?" I introduced them. Mrs. Comstock's hauteur showed signs of return. "Mr. Manley came to my husband with letters of introduction from an old schoolmate of his, a fellow student at the university, in Cape Town." "Cape Town, do you say, madam? Cape Town in South Africa? Nom d'un petit bonhomme. When was this, if you please?" "About a year ago." "Why? And Monsieur Manley, he has lived with you how long?" His question shut off her offended protest half uttered. "Mr. Manley is stopping with us," Comstock answered icily. "He is to marry my daughter next month. And, really, sir, I fail to see what interest the Republic of France, which you represent, and humanity, which you also claim to represent, can have in my private affairs. If this Cape Town friend," the little Frenchman interrupted feverishly. "His name was what, and his business?" "Really, I must decline. Tell me." He thrust forth both his slender hands as if to shake an answer from her. "It is that I must know. Nom d'un fusil. Tell me at once." "We do not know his street and number." Mrs. Comstock seemed completely cowed, "but his name is Alexander Finley, and he's a diamond factor." "Bien." The Frenchman struck his heels together and bowed as if hinged at the hips. "Thank you, madam. You have been most kind and helpful." It was past midnight when the phone began to ring insistently. "Western Union speaking," a girl's voice announced. "Cablegram for Dr. Jules de Grandin. Ready?" "Yes," I answered, seizing pencil and pad from the bedside table. "Read it, please." "No person named Alexander Finley, diamond factor known, here no record of such person in last 5 years. Signed, Burlingame, Inspector of Police." "It's from Cape Town, South Africa," she added as I finished jotting down her dictation. "Very good," I answered. "Forward a typed confirmation, please." "Mill Tunners," de Grandin exclaimed as I read the message to him. "This makes the picture puzzle complete, or very nearly so. Attend me, if you please." He leaped across the room and extracted a black leather notebook from his jacket pocket. "Behold," he consulted a notation. "This Monsieur Calmar whom no one knows. He has lived here for 10 months and 26 days. 27 when tomorrow morning comes. This information I have from a realtor whom I interviewed in my role as compiler of a directory of scientists. The young Monsieur Manley. He has known the Comstocks for about a year. He brought them letters from a schoolmate of Monsieur Comstock, who proves to be unknown in Cape Town. Parbleu, my friend, from now on Jules de Grandin turns night into day. If you will be so kind as to take him to a gun merchant from whom he may procure a Winchester rifle. Yes, he nodded solemnly. It is so. Vraiment. Time drifted by, de Grandin going gun in hand each night to keep his lonely vigils. But no developments in the mystery of the Humphreys murder or the attack on Paul Maitland were reported. The date of Millicent Comstock's wedding approached, and the big house was filled to overflowing with boisterous young folks. Still de Grandin kept up his lonely patron, and kept his own counsel. The night before the wedding day, he accosted me as he came down the stairs. "Trowbridge, my friend, you have been most patient with me. If you will come with me tonight, I think that I may show you something." "All right," I agreed. "I haven't the slightest notion what all this falderall's about, but I'm willing to be convinced." A little after 12, we parked the car at a convenient corner and walked quickly to the Comstock place, taking shelter in the shadow of a hedge that marked the boundary of the lawn. "Lord, what a lovely night!" I exclaimed. "I don't think I remember ever seeing brighter moonlight." His interruption was one of those peculiar nasal sounds, half grunt, half whinny, which none but the true Frenchman can produce. "Attend me, if you please, my friend. No man knows what part Tanit the moon goddess plays in our affairs, even today when her name is forgotten by all but dusty dry antiquaries. This we do know, however, at the entrance of life our appearance is governed by the phases of the moon. You, as a physician with wide obstetrical experience, can confirm that. Also, when the time of exit approaches, the crisis of disease is often governed by the moon's phase. Why this should be we do not know, but that it is so we know all too well. Suppose, then, the cellular organization of a body be violently, unnaturally, changed, and nature's whole force be exerted toward a readjustment. May we not suppose that Tanit, who affects childbirth and death, might have some force to apply in such a case? "I dare say," I conceded, "but I don't follow you. Just what is it you expect, or suspect, de Grandin?" "Hellas, nothing," he answered. "I suspect nothing. I affirm nothing. I deny nothing. I am agnostic, but also hopeful. It may be that I make a great black luton of my own shadow, but he who is prepared for the worst is most agreeably disappointed if the best occurs." Irrelevantly, he added, "That light yonder, it shines from Mademoiselle Millicent's chamber, n'est-ce pas?" "Yes," I confirmed, wondering if I were on a fool's errand with an amiable lunatic for company. The merrymaking in the house had quieted, and one by one the lights went out in the upper windows. I had an almost overwhelming desire to smoke, but dared not strike a match. The little Frenchman fidgeted nervously, fussing with the lock of his Winchester, ejecting and reinserting cartridges, playing a devil's tattoo on the barrel with his long white fingers. A rack of clouds had crept across the moon, but suddenly it swept away, and like a floodlight turned on the scene, the bright, pearly moonlight deluged everything. "Ah," my companion murmured, "now we shall see what we shall see, perhaps." As if his words had been a cue, there echoed from the house a scream of such wild, frenzied terror as a lost soul might emit when summoned to eternal torment. "Aha!" de Grandin exclaimed as he raised his rifle. "Will he come forth, or—" Lights flashed inside the house. The patter of terrified feet sounded among the babble of wondering, questioning voices, but the scream was not repeated. "Come forth, accursed one. Come forth and face de Grandin," I heard the small Frenchman mutter. Then, "Behold, my friend, he comes, le gorille." From Millicent's window, horrible as a devil out of lowest hell, there came a hairy head set low upon a pair of shoulders at least 4 feet across. An arm which somehow reminded me of a giant snake slipped past the window casing, grasped the cast-iron downspout at the corner of the house, and drew a thick-set, hairy body after it. A leg tipped with a hand-like foot was thrown across the sill, and, like a spider from its lair, the monster leaped from the window and hung a moment to the iron pipe, its sable body silhouetted against the white wall of the house. But what was that? That white-robed thing which hung pendant from the grasp of the beast's free arm? Like a beautiful white moth inert in the grasp of the spider, her fair hair unbound, her silken night robe rent into a motley of tatters, Millicent Comstock lay senseless in the creature's grasp. "Shoot, man, shoot!" I screamed, but only a thin whisper came from my fear-stiffened lips. "Silence, imbecile!" de Grandin ordered as he pressed his cheek against his gunstock. "Would you give warning of our ambuscade?" Slowly, so slowly it seemed an hour was consumed in the process, the great primate descended the water pipe, leaping the last 15 feet of the descent and crouching on the moonlit lawn, its small red eyes glaring malignantly, as if it challenged the world for possession of its prey. The bellow of de Grandin's rifle almost deafened me, and the smokeless powder's flash burned a gash in the night. He threw the loading mechanism feverishly and fired a second time. The monster staggered drunkenly against the house as the first shot sounded. At the second, it dropped Millicent to the lawn and uttered a cry which was part roar, part snarl. Then, one of its great arms trailing helplessly, it leaped toward the rear of the house in a series of long, awkward bounds which reminded me, absurdly, of the bouncing of a huge inflated ball. "Attend her, if you please, my friend," de Grandin ordered as we reached Millicent's inert form. "I shall make Monsieur Le Gorille my personal business." I bent above the senseless girl and put my ear to her breast. Faint but perceptible, I made out a heartbeat and lifted her in my arms. Dr. Trowbridge, Mrs. Comstock, followed by a throng of frightened guests, met me at the front door. "What's happened? Good heavens!" Millicent, seizing her daughter's flaccid hand in both her own, she burst into a flood of tears. "Oh, what's happened? What is it?" "Help me get Millicent to bed, then get some smelling salts and brandy," I commanded, ignoring her questions. A little later, with restoratives applied and electric pads at her feet and back, the girl showed signs of waking. "Get out, all of you," I ordered. Hysterical women, especially patients' mothers, are rather less than useless when consciousness returns after profound shock. "Oh, the ape-thing. The dreadful ape-thing," cried Millicent in a small, childish whimper. "It's got me, help." "It's all right, dear," I comforted. "You're safe? Safe home in your own bed, with old Dr. Trowbridge standing by." It was not till several hours later that I realized her first waking exclamation had been almost identical to Paul Maitland's when he revived from his faint. "Dr. Trowbridge," Mrs. Comstock whispered from the bedroom door. "We've looked all over, but there's no sign of Mr. Manley. Do you suppose anything could have happened to him?" "I think it quite likely that something could, and did," I answered curtly, turning from her to smooth her daughter's fluttering hand. "Parlou barbe d'un book vert," de Grandin exclaimed as, disheveled, but with a light of exhilaration in his eyes, he met me in the Comstock hall some 2 hours later. "Madam Comstock, you are to be congratulated. But for my so brave colleague Dr. Trowbridge and my own so very clever self, your charming daughter would have shared the fate of the poor Sarah Humphreys." "Trowbridge, mon vieux, I have not been quite frank with you. I have not told you all. But this thing, it was so incredible, so seemingly impossible, that you would not have believed. Parbleu, I do not quite believe it myself, even though I know that it is so. Let us recapitulate. When this Saker Beneckendorf was in the madhouse, he raved continually that his confinement cheated him of his revenge, the revenge he had so long planned against one Madame Cornelie Comstock of America. We French are logical, not like you English and Americans. We write down and keep for reference even what a madman says. Why not? It may be useful someday, who knows? Now, friend Trowbridge, some time ago I told you this Beneckendorf was reported in the Congo Belgique. Yes, but I did not tell you he were reported in charge of a young, half-grown gorilla. No, when this so unfortunate Mademoiselle Humphreys is killed in that so terrible manner, I remember my own African experiences, and I say to me, "Ah, Jules de Grandin, It looked as if Monsieur Le Gorille has had a finger in this pie. And thereupon I asked to know if any such have escaped from a circus or zoo nearby. All answers are no. Then that's Sergeant Costello. He bring me to this so splendid savant, Dr. Trowbridge, and with him I go to interview the young Monsieur Maitland, who have encountered much strangeness where the young Humphreys girl met death. And what does the young Maitland tell me? He tells of something that have hair, that jump up and down like an enraged ape, and that act like a gorilla, but wears man's evening clothes, parbleu. It is to think. No gorilla have escaped, yet what seems like a gorilla, in gentlemen's evening clothes, mordieu, have been encountered on the golf links. Thereupon I search my memory. I remember that madman and the poor infants he has turned into half-ape things by administration of his so vile serums. I say to me, if he can turn man-children into monkey things, for why can he not turn ape things into men things? Hein. Then I find one Dr. Kalmar who has lived here for a year, almost, and of whom no one knows anything. I search about, I make the inquiries, and learn one man has been seen coming to and from his place in secret. Also, in this same man's discarded shirt, I find the hairs of a gorilla. More blue. I think some more, and what I think is not particularly pleasant. I reason, suppose this serum which may make a man-thing of an ape-thing is not permanent in its effect? What then? If it is not renewed at stated intervals, the man becomes an ape again. You follow? Bien. Now, the other day, I learned something which gives me to think some more. This Beneckendorf, he raves against one Madame Comstock. You, madam, admit you once knew him. He had loved you as he understood love. Now he hated you as only he could hate. Is it not against you he plans this devilish scheme? I think it quite possible. And so I send a cablegram. Never mind to whom. Dr. Trowbridge knows that, and I got the answer I expect and fear. The man in whose shirt I find those hairs of the gorilla is no man at all. He is one terrible masquerade of a man. So, now I reason, suppose this masquerading monkey thing do not get his serum as expected, what will he do? I fear to answer my own question, but I make myself do so. Voila, I buy me a rifle. This gun has bullets of soft lead, and I make them even more effective by cutting a V-shaped notch in each of their heads. When they strike something, they spread out and make a nobly deadly wound. Tonight, what I have feared, but yet expected, comes to pass. But I am ready, me. I shoot, and each time I shoot, my bullet tears a great hole in the ape-thing. He drops his prey and seeks the only shelter that his little ape brain knows, the house of Dr. Kalmar. Yes. I follow all quickly, and reach the house almost as soon as he. He is maddened with the pain of my bullets, and in his rage he tears this so vile Kalmar into little bits, even as he has done to poor young Sarah Humphreys. And I, arriving with my gun, dispatch him with another shot, say on a fair finey. But before I come back here, I recognize the corpse of this Dr. Kalmar. Who is he? Who but the escaped lunatic, the monster maker, the entirely detestable Dr. Otto Beneckendorf? Before I leave, I destroy the devil's bruise with which he makes monkeys of men and men of monkeys. It is far better that their secret be forever lost. I think Mademoiselle Humphreys was unfortunate enough to meet this ape-man when he was on his way to Dr. Kalmar's, as he had been taught to come. As a man, perhaps he did not know this Kalmar, or, as we know him, Beneckendorf. But as a brute he knew no other man but Beneckendorf, his master, the man who brought him from Africa. When he came upon the poor girl on the golf links, she screamed in terror, and at once his savageness became uppermost. Believe me, the gorilla is more savage than the bear, the lion, or the tiger. Therefore, in his anger, he tore her to pieces. He also tried to tear the young Monsieur Maitland, but luckily for us he failed, and so we got the story which put us on his trail. Voila, it is finished. Anon I shall report to the good Sergeant Costello and show him the bodies at the Kalmar house. Also I shall cable back to Paris. The Ministry of Health will be glad to know that Beneckendorf is no more. But, Monsieur de Grandin, Mrs. Comstock demanded, who was this man, or ape, you killed? I held my breath as he fixed his cold stare on her, then sighed with relief as he answered. I cannot say, madam. Well, Mrs. Comstock's natural disputatiousness came to the surface. I think it's very queer. His laugh was positively Olympian. You think it very queer, madam? Mort done rat mort. As Bacchi said of Solomon's magnificence, the half has not been told you. When the police look for Monsieur Manley, mon Dieu, what a name for an ape-thing. They will be puzzled, he told me as we walked to my car. I must warn Costello to enter his disappearance as a permanently unsolved case. No one will ever know the true facts but you, I and the Ministry of Health, friend Trowbridge. The public would not believe, even if we told them.